Wyoming's rugged Beartooth Mountains are located in south-central Montana, and spans into portions of Wyoming. The mountains are northeast of Yellowstone National Park, and are part of the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. The mountains get their name from one of the peaks that has the appearance of a bear's tooth. The mountains include one of the few grizzly bear populations in the United States. Lynx, wolverines, bison, elk, cougars, and recently wolves were introduced back into the mountains. There are approximately 730 grizzly bears in Yellowstone, and around 600 black bears. Since 1872, 8 people have been killed by bears in the park. A person is more likely to die from drowning than a bear attack. There's been 121 drowning incidents, 21 burns from falling into the hot springs, and 26 cases of suicides since 1872. Brad Johnson, age 49, works as a surgeon at Oakdale Ear, Nose and Throat Clinic. He graduated from Des Moines University of Osteopathic Medicine and Surgery. He lives in Plymouth with his wife and 3 children. Brad is an experienced hiker who's made 2 prior trips to the Beartooth Mountains. Both times his friends Tom Therian and Justin Reed joined him. This time another friend would join, Todd Green. Todd Green, age 49, is a technology executive. Justin Reed, age 45, is a fire department captain. And Tom Therian, age 48, owns a printing company. Todd was given the task to bring the tarp this year. With this being his first trip, he brought a white tarp. The other men in the group advised him that the tarp is supposed to be green or camouflaged to be inconspicuous. The men joked around about it, but they ventured on. The men had been friends for over 20 years. They met at Plymouth Covenant Church. The group were going to hike the 8-mile rugged terrain, then fish and enjoy the outdoors for 5 days. They'd set up camp, then head back after the 5th day. In September of 2018 the 4 began their hike at 9 a.m. at the Clay Butte Lookout trailhead. The group planned to hike 8 miles to the north side of Granite Lake. The terrain they were hiking on was extremely rugged with severe elevation changes. It was remote, and deep into bear country, but each of the men carried bear spray. At 1 p.m. and approximately 7 miles into their hike, Johnson was leading the group by 100 yards. The 3 men behind heard a strange sound, but they couldn't place what it was. It sounded like a high-pitched tone, but it didn't sound like their friend Brad. The sound came again, it was screaming. When the 3rd scream came they knew it was Brad. They knew something wasn't right. The men ran as quickly as they could with their bear spray in their hands. By the time they reached Brad, 2 grizzly bears were in full charge toward Brad, and only 15 feet from him. Brad heard something off to his right. He instinctively turned his head toward the sound. About 30 feet away 2 grizzly bears were coming at him at full charge. Brad was holding his bear spray, and attempted to get the safety off. He realized he couldn't get it off, so he threw the can at the bear nearest to him. It flung over top of the bear's head. He remembered that if you are attacked by a bear to play dead. So Brad turned his back to the animals and jumped on his stomach. Just a second later one of the bears grabbed his right side from the back and shoulder and bit down. The bite force was so powerful it fractured his shoulder blade. The bear released his grip, then moved to his other shoulder biting down, then slid down Brad's arm and ripped off his tricep, exposing bone and muscles. The bear jolted Brad around and ripped at his arm and back for a minute. When the bear was biting and ripping at Brad's arm, he noticed a huge spray of blood. Brad was sure the bear ripped his artery. Being a doctor he knew he didn't have long to live. Brad could feel both bears on his back tearing at his backpack. At one point one of the bear's claws punctured into his cooking pan, which was right above his head. The bears suddenly turned and ran away. Just a minute or two later Brad's friends arrived.
So, Father God, take care of us. Pull this back, Tom. Get that out of there. Break it. I can't break it. Don't let it snap it. There. Hold on, Brad. We gotta get there.
Brad was sure he would die from his wounds. He was losing a massive amount of blood, and as a physician he knew the severity of his situation. He asked his friends to record a video of him saying goodbye to his wife and 3 kids. In the video he said he loved them and he would see them all in heaven. Brad's friends knew he would not survive the night, and needed a helicopter rescue, so they decided since Justin is trained in rescue, they would leave him with Brad and remove their 60-pound backpacks and descend the narrow rocky trail to make sure they reached someone quickly. The men were tired and knew they needed help. Tom prayed aloud that they would stumble across someone who could run much faster than them. On the descent they ran into 2 locals who knew the trail. One of the pair was a sprint runner. The couple immediately offered to run down the trail and get help. Justin kept a lookout for bears while dressing his friends' various injuries. Both men were sure the bears would return soon. After 4.5 hours, a helicopter with rangers and a medic arrived. When they first flew over, the white tarp drew their attention to the men. However, due to the rugged area, the helicopter had to land about a mile from where Brad and Justin were located. After carrying him down steep terrain, he was flown to St. Vincent Hospital in Billings, Montana. There was not enough room for Justin, so he had to stay behind. He was fearful that the bear would return and attack him. He built a fire, and stayed warm with his sleeping bag until search and rescue reached him at 10:30 p.m. that night. The following Monday Justin returned to the area with Wyoming Game and Fish officials to pick up their gear they left behind. Upon arrival, a pack of bears were ripping into their backpacks. State officials pulled their firearms, and scared the bears away. The next day Justin visited Brad in the hospital. Brad would spend 8 days in the hospital, and undergo numerous surgeries to repair the damage the bear caused. He's expected to make a full recovery and says he can't wait to get back out on the trail. He feels his bear attack was a fluke, and rare. Just 3 months after his horrific grizzly bear attack, Dr. Bradley Johnson is back to seeing his patients and doing most of the procedures he was doing before the attack. In August of 2019 Brad, Todd, Justin and their families, and the 2 who ran down the mountain trail to get officials, and the game warden all returned to the attack site. The Wyoming Game and Fish Department completed their investigation into the bear attack on Brad Johnson. After interviewing all members of the hiking party, and visiting the site of the attack, officials determined that the area of the attack was being used by multiple bears due to large pine nut caches in the area. During the late summer and early fall, when cutworm moths migrate back to the plains, grizzlies will turn to white bark pine nuts. The white bark pine trees are abundant in Yellowstone National Park and surrounding areas. The trees produce cones which contain highly nutritious nuts. Both grizzlies and black bears consume large amounts of the cones and their nuts. It's believed several bears were utilizing the pine nut caches as a food source. Due to this being a surprise encounter, and the belief that the animals were acting in a defensive manner to protect their food source, authorities decided not to take any action against the bears responsible. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more from Wild Animal Network.